Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Long Legs, making $6.7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $58 million and a worldwide total of $69 million. So Long Legs continues to do really well. You'd think by this point, given all the other bigger blockbusters out, it would have lost some steam by this point, but no, it's still putting up a good fight. It fell around 43% this weekend, which is really impressive for a horror movie like this. Its audience is still coming along and coming to see this movie out. It's definitely very fascinating. Once again, one of the biggest surprises of the summer, and like I said multiple times already, a much needed one. I feel like this summer we had a lot of big movies, but I feel like we were waiting for one of those movies that just comes out of nowhere and really surprises, and this movie is doing just that. It should get to 70 million domestically. I think that's definitely a possibility. It's definitely getting to 70 million worldwide, and it's looking like it could even get to 90 million worldwide, which for a movie as cheap as it is, it's rumored to be an only $3 million movie. This is a very, very solid total for it to be at. And while this may be the last time we see it in the top 5, there is another horror thriller coming out this weekend that'll probably steal a lot of this movie's audience. This has still been a very impressive run for Long Legs. Again, I don't think a lot of people were expecting this movie to perform to the degree it did, and man, it is a welcome surprise once again. I was astonished and very impressed by how well this movie has done. Number 4 was Inside Out 2, making $8.6 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $613 million and a worldwide total of $1.5 billion. Before I continue, I want to apologize if you hear some noise in the background. That's the rain. There's a bit of a storm hitting where I'm recording right now, so I do apologize for that. But back to Inside Out 2, once again, it surpasses a couple of milestones. On the domestic side of things, it has officially surpassed Incredibles 2's entire domestic run, and not only is it now the biggest Pixar film of all time, both domestically and worldwide, but it is now officially the biggest animated film of all time, both domestically and worldwide. It recently just surpassed Frozen 2's worldwide run. Unless if you count the Lion King movie from 2019, then it's still second behind it. But, you know, it's still 100 million away from surpassing that film. And I think it's still going to have enough juice left in the tank to get past it. I mean, it's just so close. I know it's slowing down. We're in the slow down territory here for this movie. It is starting to wind down a bit, but I believe it's still got enough. It may just be me being naive and hopefully optimistic, but damn it, I think it's got a shot. It's just been holding super well thus far, and it's been performing to such a huge degree. I just can't see it not surpassing it in the future, but man, still, this has just been a fantastic run, all things considered. Like I've said many times, like many people have said many times before, this movie just exploded. The people with the highest of expectations did not even think this movie would do this well, and it's fortunate enough to be the biggest movie of the year. It's already set so many milestones, not just for animation, but just for the film itself. It just really was able to accomplish so much, and I'm very happy that it was able to do it. It may get some competition for that number 1 spot this year, thanks to a certain movie that just came out recently, but more on that later. As for right now, it still remains the biggest movie of the year for a good reason. It was just a fantastic movie, and a lot of people went to check it out. Number 3 was Despicable Me 4, making $14 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $291 million and a worldwide total of $678 million. Another animated sequel still doing very well this summer. It has just recently surpassed the 3rd Despicable Me film, which is great, and it's now just $9 million away from surpassing the $300 million milestone, which would make it the 4th film in this franchise to do so. That is honestly pretty impressive for an animated franchise that's been going on for this long. If it keeps going at the rate it's going, I think it will reach the heights of Minions. We'll see if it can get to the heights of Minions Rise of Gru and Despicable Me 2. I'm not sure. I feel like the reception has been much lower than those films, but it's still doing very well. The word of mouth is still pretty solid, and you know, with the summer winding down and not a lot of kids movies out right now, except for one movie we'll discuss later. I think this movie's still gonna make a lot of money, make the most out of that. down period, especially with the lack of big animated kids movies that people actually genuinely want to see. So I think its future is still very bright. I still think this movie is going to continue to make a lot of money for itself. And on the worldwide side of things, it is now a little over 20 million away from the $700 million milestone. And once again, if it keeps going at the rate it can go, I think it's got enough to make it to $1 billion. It seems very likely. Once again, it still has, this franchise still has a huge foot in the pop culture landscape. People still love these characters. People still want to go check these movies out. And I think there's still going to be more to come for this movie in terms of success and, of course, money. Number 2 was Twisters, making $34 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $154 million and a worldwide total of $220 million. So it could have been worse. It could have been way, way, way worse. This could have had an over 60, near 70% drop off from last weekend, given the competition it faced off, but it was actually able to stay under 60% this weekend, which is honestly really impressive to see. And on the domestic side of things, this movie continues to impress. It's about to surpass its initial production budget of $155 million, and if it can keep maintaining strongholds throughout its entire box office run, at least domestically, we could see it surpassing the $200 million milestone. We're heading into the dog days of summer, so I can see it benefiting from that, not really being anything else up to this scope, up to this movie's scale, and so I can see this movie benefiting from that. The one downside to this film, though, has been the international box office. This movie is just not performing well internationally. I don't know the reason. I guess just not enough international audiences are interested in movies about tornadoes, I guess, and that's gonna be a big issue with this movie, as it's still roughly $100 million away from its doubling point of its $155 million budget. So hopefully, hopefully when it releases in some more international countries, or maybe if it gets better word of mouth or something, it'll boost up the worldwide totals, because things aren't looking very good for the film internationally. Definitely not what this movie is doing domestically, but still, though, this is still doing rather impressive for itself, certainly better than I thought it would do, especially this weekend going up against the juggernaut it had to go up against. This is still a really solid, very impressive number, and I hope it is able to bring out a bigger crowd internationally, as I do want this movie to succeed. It had a really solid opening and it's been doing really well. It's definitely outperformed my expectations for sure, and to see it, disappoint internationally would be rather, disappointing. But still a pretty solid total, if I do say so myself. It just needs those international numbers to boost up. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Deadpool and Wolverine, opening with $211 million this weekend domestically, and $444 million worldwide. So let's break this down. This is the biggest opening of the summer, topping Inside Out 2, Twisters, Despicable Me 4, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It is the biggest opening of the year, topping Inside Out 2, Dune Part 2, Twisters, and Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. It's the biggest opening ever for an R-rated movie, topping Deadpool, Deadpool 2, It, and Joker. Oh my god, that was a big one. It's the biggest opening for any movie released in July, topping the 2019 Lion King, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Barbie, and The Dark Knight Rises. It is the 4th biggest opening ever for an MCU film, topping the first Avengers, but still sitting behind Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Avengers Endgame. And it is the 6th biggest opening of all time, topping Jurassic World, the first Avengers, Black Panther, and the 2019 Lion King, but still sitting behind The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, Infinity War, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Avengers Endgame. So as was expected, this movie absolutely killed it this weekend. I don't think anyone is really that surprised, but more so impressed by how this movie managed to do so. There was a lot of ramblings about, well, it's R-rated, you can't really bring everyone to go and check this out, and even I said that that was going to be the film's biggest hinder, but clearly it wasn't. A lot of people went to go check this out. It actually beat out Inside Out 2's opening this year, which I thought it would be a possibility, but I didn't think it was going to be to this degree. Very impressive though, and it's going to be interesting to see which one comes out on top in terms of biggest movie of the year, which one will have the better legs and which one will obviously make the most amount of money. My money's still on Inside Out 2. I just think that movie just had a lot more of the hype and more of the wow factor, whereas this is just another Deadpool movie. It's still a great movie, but Inside Out 2 was just a league of its own. But still, I'm not discounting the fact that this movie could do that. Again, we're only in its first weekend and it's done great, especially for an R-rated movie. The first one to open to over 150 million, that is insane. The fact that it's the first MCU film we've had in months. I think a lot of people forgot the Marvels even came out a while back. So definitely a much needed break, and this was definitely a solid return to the franchise for a lot of people. I think the marketing was great, so much publicity, so much promos, got a lot of people's attention, and the buzz was just super strong. This was easily the most hyped up anticipated film of the year, and it's reaping the rewards. This is a $200 million film and it's already doubled that, and it's gonna probably triple it by next weekend, maybe even quintuple it within the next 2 weekends. The word of mouth on this seems to be very solid. It got an A Cinema Score rating, which is on par with the other Deadpool movies and most of the best received MCU films, so that's great to see. All in all, this is a fantastic opening. I look forward to seeing where this movie goes from here. With these types of MCU films that have these big openings, they tend to be very front-loaded, which is why we usually see them drop significantly, which is why I'm giving the edge over to Inside Out 2 over this. So definitely going to be interesting to see where this movie goes from this point forward. Hopefully continues the strong legs that we saw with Inside Out 2, and hopefully it doesn't seem to be very front-loaded. I don't think it's going to be. The hype and reception from a lot of people seems to be very positive. So oh my god, there it is again. But yeah, once again, great opening, expecting great legs. This is a fantastic opening. Looking forward to seeing where it goes from here, but I'm expecting it's going to continue to grow from this point forward. So yeah, fantastic opening for Deadpool and Wolverine. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. This weekend we have 2 new wide releases, the first being Harold and the Purple Crayon. This is of course the live-action adaptation of the beloved children's book of the same name. As you can probably imagine, not only am I not looking forward to this movie, but I don't have a lot of high expectations for this movie either. Yes, it's been a great year for family films. Yes, it's the last family film of the summer. Yes, it's based off of a beloved children's book, but I just don't see anything working for this movie. The marketing hasn't been there. I'm not seeing a really big marketing push for this movie. I don't know a single person who wants to really go and check this out. Best case scenario, this is a Lyle Lyle Crocodile. Somehow this movie turns out to be better than expected, maybe a solid 3 out of 5 stars, and find some legs. Otherwise, I just don't see this movie bringing in any sort of audience. It just doesn't look like there's any real interest in this movie at all. And then there's Trap, a new horror thriller from M. Night Shyamalan about a concert that is really a trap to find a deranged serial killer, even though the serial killer is already there and it's not the person you think it is. I think this movie's gonna surprise. I think there's some interest with this movie. It's got M. Night Shyamalan behind it. His movies can go either way. They can be really surprisingly good or really surprisingly bad. But I think the premise is really interesting. I do see a lot of people talking about this movie. The buzz has been great. It has a great trailer. A lot of people have been talking about how good the trailer is for this movie, and the marketing has been really solid for it. I've been seeing a lot of promos and stuff for it. And horror recently has had a bit of a comeback, with Quiet Place Day 1 and Longlegs overperforming, and I can see this one doing that as well. And with August being the slowdown period for the summer, it could definitely take advantage of that slowdown period and get people to the theater. I think we could see something overperform here. I'm not expecting anything, not another Twisters or Deadpool or anything, but I could see something surprising here. I'm expecting a decent opening here. but we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.